What is happiness? Happiness is achievement. What's the father of achievement? Motivation. What's the mother? Encouragement. The fine golf swing is truly achievement. Man may lie, cheat, and steal for gain. But he'll never gain the golf swing. To gain the golf swing, man must work. It's work without toil. For those of us who know to love it, golf is truly happiness.
All right, I'm out here at the Eli Callaway Performance Center, and I'm on the next step here on the next one with Chris. All right, and I'm going to actually have Chris introduce himself in a second, but we're going to talk about fairway woods, right? And this is we got the fairway woods, okay? So Chris, introduce yourself if you would, and tell everybody at home what you do for Callaway.
Sure. So, okay? I'm Chris Nunez. I'm a manager of the R&D team, focusing on woods, drivers, and fairway woods. Yeah, that's my job.
Okay, so R&D, research and development for fairway woods, okay? So we're going to talk about the new Paradigm Smoke today. We're talking about the fairway woods and Paradigm Smoke. So the very first thing we're going to do, so we're going to, then I'm going to talk, before we get into the why these are so good, okay, and the AI of these, let's just talk about the different lines they have with this. Let's talk about the different ones. There's 3 or 4 different lines this year?
Four different lines.
Models. Okay, let's talk about them.
So first is your max model. This is your up the gut. Standard, little bit of draw bias, but fairly neutral, easy to launch, shallow face, very forgiving.
Okay, that's the max model. Okay.
You got your max D, the D standard for draw, kind of shortened for draw. This is a little bit more upright lie, a lot more draw bias, easier to turn over. Someone who's struggling with the slice, that's your model.
So you got the max D, okay, then what else?
Triple diamond, this is your better player model, a little bit smaller shape, deeper face. It's not quite as forgiving as the other models, but a little bit more penetrating trajectory, a little more tour-inspired shape. So that's really what defines that one. And then finally, the Max Fast. This is very similar in shape to the Max D, but designed with ultimate lightness for maximum speed. So if you're someone who struggles with swing speed or looking for more speed, kind of who isn't, that's a great model for you.
Okay, so I'm gonna make this real easy for you, okay? Because 95 to 99% of the demographic I deal with, which is tens of thousands or actually hundreds of thousands of golfers, are going to be in the Max or the Max Fast. Okay, we don't recommend a draw bias. We teach a single plane swing, and when you start doing draw bias, start hooking it. Okay, so we want to work on their swings and get away from that. So we want to look at the Max and the Max Fast. Now the triple diamond is great, but that's a lot higher swing speed than most of our guys deal with. Okay, so let's talk about these. Now first, before we go into it, talk about why this is such a good fairway wood. What you guys did, and you guys do AI, we know that, the artificial intelligence type, and you have the supercomputer that creates all this information for these clubs, but just talk about why this is such a good fairway wood. Talk about why it's so great of a fairway wood. What's the reason?
This is the best fairway wood.
Okay, that's absolutely, okay. So you listen to the expert.
And I'll tell you why, because literally everything that we've done is all for a singular purpose of creating maximum distance and a minimum shot area, so maximum accuracy and forgiveness. So it really starts off with the smart face.
So the face of the club.
This is something across all of our product lines we're using, taking hundreds of thousands of swings and understanding how players swing for each model, then simulating how that player would swing, and creating a distance and dispersion downrange that the computer can see. It can then modify the back of the face to create a different thickness contour, and how that thickness, when you hit the ball, the face deflects, and so we're controlling how that deflection is happening to influence ball speed, launch, and spin. So it's kind of auto-correcting your shots to create, everyone wants to hit it out of the middle. You're gonna hit a great shot when you hit it out of the middle. We're trying to make the shots hit off center just as close to that middle shot as we can, and using those micro deflections, that's helping to influence that.
Okay, so you heard what he just talked about there in fairway wood. He talked about just the way this is built. So this is well, obviously it's through years and years of research, data, information put in, then they come up with the best fairway wood out there. Okay, so now let's get into real life. And what I mean by that is, so talk about this. I'm working with a lady or a gal, or a lady or a guy. And I'm out there and they're making minimal divot. Okay, so they're out there, they're making minimal divot. They're hitting, you know, these are typically in regular or senior flex shafts. Okay, some obviously ladies, a lot of ladies in the ladies flex shafts. Okay, and they come up to me and they sit there and say, okay, oh, is this fairway wood a good fairway wood for me to hit? Is it easy for me to hit? That's what they want to know. Is it easy for me to hit? Is it a good fairway? Because, you know, and they'll walk up to me. They literally will say this at times. I've never made a deal with my fairway wood my whole life. They'll sit there and say that to me. And that's typical. That's real life. Okay.
Yeah, I get that.
And that's what's put into this computer, by the way. That's a majority of the people.
100%.
Okay.
Yes.
So talk about that. So why would this be such a good club for them to hit?
So I think for that player, something to point out is the face height.
Right.
So specifically on these,
the height of the face.
Just over the years, we've been getting shallower and shallower.
Right.
And by making the face shallower and shallower, you can get the club under the ball easier, right? The face is literally coming down to get more and more under the ball.
Let's talk about that for a second here, because that's the first thing they'll notice. They'll compare a club that's 5-6 years old and it's got a big, deep face.
Right.
And all of a sudden they get this club, this face, and it's shallower and shallower. It's low. And they go, well, that seems like it should be less forgiving. It's the first thing they'll notice. And it's not. It's just the opposite, right?
It's the opposite.
Listen and say it, explain it to me one more time, because I want everybody at home to hear this, because this is a question we get all the time about this.
Sure, yeah. I mean, if you're teeing up the ball real high, this doesn't apply. But when you're hitting a fairway wood, oftentimes you're hitting it off the deck. The ball can't go up. But you can make the face come down.
Right.
And if the face is coming down, now you can get the club under the ball easier and hit higher in the face, which is going to ultimately give you those higher launches and lower spins.
So as the face comes down, it makes it easier to get the ball up.
Right, because if you're not making a divot, you're not getting all the way down there.
Right.
So
100%.
let's just bring the face further down, and then you can get and hit closer to the center.
I love
you're not hitting low on the face anymore.
Right.
You're now hitting closer to the center.
Love that. I love that. That's a big deal, because when they look at this club versus what they saw in the past, they've seen the bigger faces and they've come down. That's just to make it easier to hit. I love that.
And same, there's a little bit more shaping, a little more camber on the heel. You can see kind of the low part of the face is a little bit more towards the toe. Again, just making the club sit more flush with the ground on that heel side.
Love it. Now, talk a little bit more for me on the fairway options. So for the Max and the Max Fast, talk about the options. They get 3 woods, obviously 5 woods. What else they have in those? What are the options they have in those?
I think we go up to the 9 wood in the Max.
Okay. 9 wood in the Max. Okay.
Yeah, and then regarding the Max Fast, I don't know off the top of my head.
But you go to 9 woods now in those. So you actually will go down to 9 woods in these in the Max, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you, and I'm just going to throw this out to you. I always throw a load of questions in here. Somebody comes to me and they sit there and say, well, you're going to sit there and say that you could have a 7 wood, you could have maybe a 4 hybrid in the bag, and they're trying to figure out which one to put in there.
Yeah.
Or maybe a 9 wood or 5 hybrid in the bag. That's what the similarities between them.
Sure.
They're trying to figure out which one to put in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as an engineer, what would you tell them? Now, I'm not going to say you had a lot to do with the fairway woods, but discuss that a little bit. If you had somebody out here right now and they said, I don't know which one I should put in here, what would you tell them? What would you talk to them about?
Well, I tell them sort of, from the past in your ball flight, right? Are you someone who struggles to get the ball off the ground? Then I probably would suggest to go more in a higher lofted fairway wood than a hybrid. I think a hybrid's, it's easier to get under the ball, but I think typically they're a bit more lower spinning than something like, let's say, a 7 wood or a 9 wood. I am an engineer, but I'm also a golfer.
No,
so
100%,
I guess from the golfer side, I'd say go hit both. Go try out both at a fitter if you can, and really see what appeals to you more.
Like it, I love that. Okay, now talk to me a little bit. So now the 3 wood's got some adjustability in it, right?
Right.
Okay, so we'll talk about that for a second.
On all the 3s, anything with a 3 on it. So we have a 3 and a 3 HL.
Okay.
The HL has a little bit more loft on it, but still plays like a 3 wood, so it'll just be higher launching.
Right.
Anything with a 3 on it is adjustable.
Okay.
5s and up.
Right.
Those are all bonded.
Okay, so they're all bonded. So you got adjustability in the 3s, the other ones are bonded. So now let's talk about a little bit about shafting of it. Okay, so talk a little bit about the shafting of the club. So because how about now? What type of shaft? Tell me a little about the quality of shafts you put in there. A little bit about what's recommended in the shafting in these clubs.
Right. I mean, we have a bunch of different suppliers that we source shafts from, and we put a lot of time and effort into making sure that the specification of the shaft is going to be proper. So what does that mean, right? That's shaft flex, swing weight, torque, tip flex. These are all things that are I'd say very, very high level. If you're a consumer, you probably don't need to get to know all these things. But on the engineering side of it, we're making sure that each one is dialed in for the model that it's chosen for.
Perfect.
So the shafts that we're going to be choosing for a Max model are going to be a little bit different than the shafts we're choosing for a Max Fast.
Sure.
Right. One's going after a player who maybe doesn't struggle with speed, and the other one we want maximum speed. So we're going to choose a shaft. What do you guess? Produces maximum speed.
100%. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you the loaded question here, because and it's always like to put the guys in the spot, but it makes sense. Okay,
bring it on.
Yeah, there you go. That's why I'm here. Okay, so I have thousands of people out there, literally, in fact, it's tens of thousands of people out there who have bought the Paradigm from last year.
Great.
Or they have bought the Rogue ST Max, okay? So or maybe even the Maverick, but they went Rogue ST Max or Paradigm. So right now they're watching this video because I've said you probably want to upgrade, or you want to go up to the next step up. Because because guys, they're putting so much technology in this, and as we've heard in some of our videos of our talk, you got hundreds of people working behind the scenes to build this technology, okay? So tell me right now, if I had a guy who had a Rogue ST Max or a Paradigm in their hand, and they're looking to upgrade to this, so they're going to trade in the other club and go to this, why? Just I'm going to throw that. Why is this better? Because we know it's better. It has to be, because like I said, I can go home and test this myself in my garage. I can throw it on a launch monitor and test it versus last year's model. You follow me? And so we know it's better. But you explain. So there's the expert right here. I want him to explain why this is better.
Right, yeah. So I worked at Callaway 10 years, and year over year, I'm in charge of all the testing that we do, and I see all the numbers, right?
Here we go,
And, some years are maybe small gains, other years are big gains. This is definitely one of the years that we're seeing gigantic gains.
So big gains in this.
Big gains in distance, specifically. So across the board, model to model over Paradigm, which is #1 selling fairway last year.
By far, right?
Yeah.
This is big gains.
We're seeing distance gains and accuracy gains. So model over model. If you're coming from Rogue, you're going to see even bigger distance gains.
There you go. And Maverick even bigger, obviously. So.
Right, as you go further and further back. But yeah, this is one that so just talking about the carbon chassis, which we haven't really touched on yet. We made massive gains in the amount. So by having more carbon, you have less steel. Steel is a lot heavier than carbon, so you save mass to redistribute in other places. We saved 24 grams. A fairway wood, is typically maybe 215 grams total. So that's over 10% of the total mass of the head we saved to reposition elsewhere.
You can tell this is a numbers guy, because I'm a numbers guy. I love it. So here we go. This is the numbers guy here. I love it.
Yeah, 24 grams is like an insane number year over year. I mean, if you saved 5 grams, that would be a great year.
24 is huge.
This was 24,
so huge. So you got to put it distribute other places in the club.
Right, and so that's kind of where you're seeing some of the advancements in launch, spin, and forgiveness. We're repositioning that weight low and forward into this tungsten speed cartridge, but also redistributing a good amount in the back. On the inside, there's a huge chunk of mass and metal in the back, and that's helping with launch, spin, and forgiveness.
So you're saying right now, and guys, that's why we're here. This is why we're here today. It's because here's the numbers guy. You're the one that sees the numbers. You're the one that. So there's no joke here when we're talking about if you look at the AI technology and the numbers compared to last year's and year before, any other company, obviously. But this is the highest technology out there and the best numbers out there. Am I right? So 100%. No doubt about it.
And all these technologies are working together. All trying to produce great launch conditions, incredible forgiveness, and like I said, huge distance gains.
So you're looking at accuracy, distance, and obviously forgiveness is when you're looking at a club. And so every year you're trying to create the next product that beats last year's product, right? And that's why we can guarantee that. That's why it's guaranteed here, because we always say, I mean, if you don't believe it, go try it yourself. Go test it yourself. But this is the guy now. When you say right now, and I want to just bring this up, kind of one of the last things I'll talk to you about here, but because you're a numbers guy, I'm a numbers guy, everybody at home knows I'm a numbers guy. I'm actually a biostatistician by trade, okay? So I'm a big time numbers guy. So when you say we look at the numbers, okay, and you say I'm the one that looks at the numbers, describe to them again what that means at home by that, because this is the technology, this is the AI supercomputer technology, am I right?
Right.
It's okay, talk to them a little bit about that at home, because this is the big deal with Callaway.
Yeah, so we have a database, and anytime players go to get fit, they have their swings measured, right? And that's what the fitter's using to say, oh, yes, you use this, or let's go up and lock. So we're collecting all of that data. That all gets fed into a massive database that we can go in and query. So we can say, well, what players, if we look at just the players who are swinging a max type of club, what are they swinging like, right? And literally hundreds of thousands of shots, right? Because everyone's around the world getting fit.
Shots.
All that's feeding into this database and creating a model, and it's up to us to then look at that model and say, well, does this make sense? Is this accurate? What should we use? And ultimately, that's just feeding into creating a more accurate design for a more tailored design. So similar to how a suit should fit you, everyone's different. Your golf club should fit you properly, and so that's what we're doing. We're creating a better tailored suit.
That's why it's such a club for everybody. because you guys have been able to do that. Because the data they collect is not just for John Rahm data or Alexander Schauffele data. This is more. Trust me, they're collecting a lot more data on the average player. That there's a lot more data on that and be able to put that in the computer and figure out what works for them the best.
Orders of magnitude greater of regular people data than John Rahm or
there's no doubt about that. Because it was very interesting. I was talking to another gentleman about this, but when I was out here years ago and I went to Doc, and Doc came out and he looked at it and he said, and he introduced a supercomputer, and he put it out there and he said, and he goes, I'm going to throw it to you guys right now. He goes, I just dropped the rest of the golf industry 25 years behind us by putting this computer out there. And that was a lot of money to put in that computer. It was a very big deal, but now you guys are cranking and using it. That's what you're using.
Yeah, I mean,
so now it's put into effect.
It's running constantly. When we're sleeping, when we're on vacation, we are using it. Every single category is using it. You'll see the putters later today, right? Every category uses it, and it's a huge investment, but a significant advantage over anyone else, and it allows us to get to a level of performance that no one can get
touch.
to.
Well, that's what we deal with Callaway. So here's and I keep saying last question, but we'll end it here. So, and I'm going to ask you this question. If I asked you the number right now, because I talk to a lot of people about this at home, a lot of people at home, whether they're thinking, how do they create this club, or is there one guy in the back room creating this club? How many people, I'm just asking you this, would you say are behind this club? If I said right now that helped design this club, that came up with this, I know it's a tough question.
Design, or just like from concept to like in your hand at
from like concept in your hand.
In your hand.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I want to say maybe over 1,000, because from just within R&D, you have 100. You have our marketing teams. You have our suppliers who
have to be highly involved.
There's hundreds of people. Believe it or not, there's hundreds of people who touch all of these to create this. It takes hundreds of people to touch this to get it to this level.
Because you guys can R&D can come up with some, but if you can't supply it, it doesn't do you any good at all.
100%. And then our team in Monterey, assembling all the clubs and delivering them to the distribution center to pack your order to ship it to you in 2 days or whatever it may be. I'd say probably closer to 1,000.
But you said, it was interesting. You said over 100 just in R&D alone.
Just in R&D alone, we have over.
So like I always say, there's
100.
not one guy in the back room just trying to figure this thing out.
No, we're a huge team, and we all have our roles, and we all have to work together to execute on the mission of creating the best golf clubs in the world. And so we utilize each other for each other's strengths, and I think that's the product speaks for itself in the end.
So you're taught. So here's the expert here, and I'll finish. I'll close with this. But we got the expert right here. He, like I said, he's the one look at the numbers, monitor the numbers, watch the numbers, making sure this is better than last year's, and so on. And he's recommending this, obviously, the Paradise Smoke, even over last year's model because of better numbers. Remember, right? You're looking at his face right now. He's saying absolutely, and it's a big deal. There's a big change. This is a big deal this year.
This is going to be a challenge next year to beat. We got our work cut out. We do it every year.
I love to hear that.
But we really have our work cut out for us.
And the Paradigm was #1.
Yeah.
So you're saying this one's better? Think about that. That's crazy.
It blew our minds, and
this one's better.
And I can't wait for customers to start hitting these and seeing the results for themselves.
I love it. Well, thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.